Merry Christmas, everybody. Welcome to Santa's Workshop. We've been doing this for about 46 years. Santa's going 46 years old. I'll point out some of the things that is on the display over here. We have the Santa over there working away with his drill, a very old-fashioned drill, but a very, very good drill. And as you pan around, you can pick up on the fireplace. We have Mrs. Claus is in the background, snowing out. It's a very good storm going. Santa will have plenty of snow for his sleigh. Mrs. Claus is on the phone, probably ordering material for future toys that Santa's going to make. And then if you take a look on the fireplace, you'll notice before she got on the phone, she put out a candy dish, beautiful candy selection. And the elves turned around and turned it into kind of like a seesaw. It doesn't seem to bother anybody at the North Pole. Santa doesn't mind. And next to the candy dish, you have a marionette. And the elves do love to play with marionettes. That's a known fact. And next to that, we have another type of drill that the elves are working on, making wheels, cutting the wheels out of plywood, it looks like. And as we go down, we have a loom. And a loom is a wonderful machine. It makes fabric. And there's a picture in the background of a lady who's actually making material on a loom. And I can't help but think that back in the day, in the 1800s, imagine walking into your house with a ripped shirt. Not only did your mother make the shirt, but she made the fabric to make the shirt. I think you were probably in for a little bit of a problem with mom and dad if you walked in with a ripped shirt. And as we go down, we have the magic coloring box with Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse on it. And nobody can really figure out how the elves do this. 1 minute the picture is colored, and then the next motion, as it comes back and forth to the left, it goes back to black and white. And then if you look again, when it gets pulled to the right, it turns back to color. This still has a lot of people confused how Santa does that, because it is a magic coloring box, so he can do it if anybody can do it. And next to the magic coloring box, we have the gumball machine. The elves do love to chew gum while they're working. Another known fact that they pick up. And then right next to them, we have the two elves playing with that little hammer game that they get a kick out of playing. And we also have the two elves over here polishing the feet so that Santa and Mrs. Claus can get out there on the slope. And he likes his feet nice and shiny. So they work very, very hard to do that. Then as we come back across here, we have they're coloring ornaments. They're painting them right now. You have the one guy, he's been working on that ornament now for probably about 15 minutes. And he should be finished with that one pretty soon. And then the one next to him is the little elf who crochets. He crochets little ornaments. They're snowflakes. They're really very nice. He does a very nice job on them. You can see them. Very, very lightweight, so they don't bend the branches, and they stand out on the Christmas tree very nice. So they're white against the green. Then you also have the train coming around. Santa does love trains. It's almost like you can't get enough of trains. Then you have the fellas here. You got the two guys up on top trying to pull the wrapping paper up, because the guys down below are trying to pull it down so that they can wrap the package. So they're always clowning around the elves. They're very, very hard workers, but they also play just as hard as they work. And next to the fireplace, and another favorite of the elves, marshmallows. They'll stop what they're doing, go over and roast a couple of marshmallows in the fireplace, and then they go back to work. Popcorn is another favorite of theirs. That's the guy in the background. He has some sort of a little problem. One guy is loading the popcorn tin, and he's trying to throw it out. We don't know why. We'll have to talk to him, or maybe Santa can talk to him. But again, it doesn't seem to bother Santa that he's throwing popcorn all over the floor. And up on the table over here, next to the wrapping paper, the elves do tire out once in a while, so anytime they want, they can just lay down and take a little nap. Doesn't seem to bother Santa at all. Then we have the cardinal, the bird here. Animals are free to come and go as they please in Santa's workshop. Santa's favorite bird happens to be the cardinal, and he just has these feeders placed around the shop, and they come in, get a good belly full of seeds, and then they fly away, and then the next one will come in, and then it'll get a nice full belly, and then they'll fly away again. Like I said, the animals come and go in Santa's workshop. He just loves all animals. As you come around, you also have the Mrs. Claus is over here on the typewriter. For those of you guys who don't know what the typewriter is, it was just before the computer. Some of you may not recognize it, but I'm sure a lot of you do. Mrs. Claus is typing a letter to Old Man Winter asking for some more snow this year to make sure that the sleigh is nice and free to go. And she went over to get that phone call, and these two characters jumped on and just ruined her letter. But it doesn't seem to bother anybody at the North Pole, so they can play. You have this other fella. This is Mrs. Claus's shoe right here. Evidently the heel broke, and Santa wrote a little letter here. Mrs. Claus wrote a letter to Santa if he could fix it up, so these guys are taking care of that problem. We also have the nursery right down here. The dog's name is Snowflake, and she just had a puppy down here. This is her puppy Snowball. And if you look carefully in the window in the back, maybe you caught it before, that's Snow Shovel. That's her older puppy from last year. He's 1 year old back there. And these three elves here are just kind of playing with the dog, trying to let down the biscuits so that they all have something to eat. But if you look inside, the nursery, you'll notice that there's all different types of animals in there. You have cats, dogs, birds, bunny rabbits, owls, everybody. Little mice inside there, little white mice. Everybody gets along. And then the newest addition to the nursery is the little monkey in the background, little orangutan. His name is Oreo. We found out that he loved Oreo cookies and bananas. So Santa went and named him Oreo. And he's more than welcome to stay there. He was found on the front step in a box. He was found on the front step in the workshop in a box, wrapped up real nice and warm in a blanket. And Santa Claus took him in. And, orangutans are from the jungle, and this is the North Pole, so we have no idea where Oreo came from, but he's going to grow up in Santa's workshop and probably have a ball. And we have this fella coming down. We have another situation over here on the Santa Claus trying to listen to a little music on the old-time phonograph. And no sooner did he put the phonograph on, and these characters jumped on. They're using it for a merry-go-round. So once again, it doesn't bother Santa. He'll listen to the music later, I guess. He does have a radio. It's up on the mantle, but for now, I guess he wanted to listen to a little record music, and they kind of ruined that for him. Then underneath the table, we have sharpening pencils. They use a tremendous amount of pencils at the North Pole. Tremendous amount of pencils. I can't figure out what they use them for, but other than writing. But I guess all the marks they make before they cut the wood, and letters to each other, and notes to each other, what has to be done. So we have that one guy back there. He's just sharpening pencils. And then we have the world globe. Santa uses that just to keep track on where he's going. And those two guys, again, one guy jumped on the top, the other guy's spinning him around. But doesn't bother anybody at the North Pole. We also have Rudolph over here. Good boy. nose lights up, and he likes to be a part of everything. So that's why to have a little door for him to look in. He loves Santa Claus, so he can't tear the two of them apart. They just love each other. All the reindeer do. And they take turns sticking their head through the window to see what's going on. And then you have two guys in the background there. They're on a plane. They're apprentices. They're learning how to use a wood plane. They're shaving the wood down over there. And the guys right behind them, Santa drinks his hot cocoa out of that mug, and they're using it for a game. One is pulling the other one up. I don't know if this is what's going on. Another example of these guys, these crazy elves are, this elf right here wants to give the small elf, the little guy, a little ride in the bicycle, and this guy's holding him back. Just another example of the way these guys fool around. But once again, they do work very hard, so they deserve a little game here and there. I guess that's the way Santa looks at it. And over here we do, the elves do like to help each other. The younger ones do help the older ones out, even with their teeth. I mean, they give them a hand. They're willing to help at any time. The two guys in the sink here, I don't know exactly what happened. They probably did something wrong. Maybe perhaps they broke something, I'm not sure. But they're getting Mrs. Claus some flowers, so we're a little suspicious. We don't know what happened. And we have this fella here. He's taking a drink. He's pumping the water. And the other guy gets a drink, and they take turns doing that. They also do their laundry. Every day they do laundry. That machine really gets a lot of use. And the fellow who's cranking that through the grind wringer, he really loves doing it. He does it all the time. Another thing that Santa enjoys is his Campbell's soup. He's crazy about Campbell's soup. And as you can see, he eats the Campbell's soup by the case. He also drinks a lot of coffee as well as his cocoa. These guys are just grinding away, grinding up more coffee beans. Another popular person at the North Pole is Walt Disney. Santa loves Walt Disney because of all the things and all the movies that he does. So they made that, the elves put that together kind of like a dedication to Walt Disney. And then right below that you have the two elves on the sewing machine. Now there are more sewing machines than that at the North Pole. But we just figured we have one just to show you. You know, they make the doll clothes and whatnot, as well as their own clothes. Here's one of them. Another favorite of Santa's is peanuts. He loves peanuts. He feeds them not only to himself, but he feeds them to the reindeer and stuff like that. So they actually use nutcrackers, break the nuts up, and on one side they go and they dump all the empty shells, and on the other side they fill up the buckets, and then Santa distributes them among the elves and among the reindeer, and everybody loves peanuts up there. Another thing is the train up on top. I don't know if you were able to spot that. Like I said before, Santa does love trains. And trains, airplanes, cars. Here comes a train right now. That's an oldie but a goodie, that one. That train goes back to 1935. Still working good though at the North Pole. We have the airplane up on top. I hope you can spot that. We have three airplanes, three different types of airplanes. All of them are being flown by smaller elves, little guys. They get a kick out of it. Good practice for them too. So around the front here, you'll notice all the skaters. All those skaters are from 1930s to the 40s. Old toys that kids used to play with back in the old days. As well as the cars. We got the Hobo Jack. He's sitting in there. I don't know if you can see Hobo Jack. Has a little fire down near the track. Pony Express. Doing a good job up there. Over here we made this little setup of the streets in Brooklyn where I grew up, and that's very much like what it was like back in the days, back in the 50s. We didn't have as many carolers as I have there, but we sure did have people going around caroling and stuff like that. The only thing that they were really, they weren't paid anything, but it would be quick to run out there with some hot chocolate or cocoa or tea or some cookies, just like they're feeding them right out of the bakery there. It's Cameo and Mike's Bakery. Right next to it is the hardware store, and when I was growing up, it wasn't Kirk's hardware store, it was Dom's hardware store, but that's just about what the hardware store looked like when I was a kid. And that's where my mom and dad would buy Christmas trees and wreaths and stuff like that from Dom. Look carefully, you'll see Santa in the window coming up in the next building. See if you can find them. There's 2 Christmas trees, one on each floor above the store, and then you got Santa standing in the corner. I hope it comes out. Where you can see him, he's checking his list to see who gets what. In the next building you can, I don't know if you can see the flickering flame. Pretty cold out. But it doesn't make any difference how cold it really is. When the children would hear the carolers singing, all the windows would open up and they'd listen to the Christmas music. We also had a toy store. I can't recall the name of the toy store. It was on Nostrand Avenue in Brooklyn, and that's one of our favorite places when we were kids. We'd save up as much as we could and go inside and buy. And if one guy didn't have enough money, the other guy would throw a couple more quarters in so that he could get what he wanted. All the way up on the roof you can see Santa's sleigh with an elf with a light in his hand. That's an example of how Santa Claus does come in. He comes in on these very high rooftops in the city too. Then on the other side you can see Rudolph and two of the other reindeers. I don't know who they are. It could be Blitzen, maybe Donner and Blitzen. And Rudolph with the red nose, he's up there too. This tree has quite a few lights on it. She's 12'4" high. To the very tip of the star, it's about 12 foot, I'd say 12'9", to the very, very tip of the star. And it is a real tree, and you do get that smell of the real Christmas tree. Some of the ornaments are handmade. A lot of them are hand painted. They all have a meaning to them. What you're looking at right now is Santa's workshop. I met a guy, Pete, who is an ice road trucker who delivers all of the raw material to Santa at the North Pole. Pete has slept overs at the North Pole. He's had breakfast, lunch, and dinner with Santa at the North Pole. And to give you an idea, he's an ice road trucker. And what ice road truckers do is exactly what it says. He drives his truck at the North Pole over all this ice and snow. And if this was to true scale right now, this road that goes around here, we go all the way, another 30 feet, and then come back again. And if you can see, this one truck is cutting across. This is a lake. And when the lake freezes over, this truck cuts across and cuts out all those miles and saves a lot of time and a lot of fuel. If you can see, Santa's workshop is tucked right inside there, pretty much away from people seeing. And there's usually there are a lot more trees from what Pete told me, so that you really you can't see any of the workshop, whether you're on the ground or from the air. So we went along, and a long time ago, I read an article where Santa wrote a letter to his friend, and he said, "I thank God for the wind and the water for powering my machines." So I'm saying the wind and the water. Well, wind would be a windmill, and water would be a water wheel. So to give you an idea what a water wheel is, for those who don't know, back in the old days, before electricity, they had water wheels, and the water wheel would turn and it would furnish power for tools and whatnot. As you can see, the water's coming out now, turning that wheel. And then if I open this up, if you look inside, down here, this gear right here is connected to that big gear that's turning with the water. And it's connected to another gear, and that gear goes up to a shaft and runs across, and there are sprockets connected. So if you look carefully, you can see the drill press is turning. And up on the next floor, you can see the bandsaw is being powered. Both of these machines are not being powered with a motor, they're being powered off that water wheel. But Pete's description to me is how I was able to make this. And he said that this is very, very close to what it looks like in this section of Santa's workshop. And I'll show you where this section is in relation to the whole Santa's workshop. This is just a small piece of it. Notice a little guy out there, one of the elves shoveling away, and there's a raccoon sitting outside keeping him company. And again, Santa's favorite bird, the cardinal. He loves all birds, and all the birds are flying around, but the cardinal is the most popular one at this time of year. On the side, I don't know if you can see it, it may be a little dark. I have to put some lights on there. I don't have any lighting, but this is the sewing room. And the girl elves are very, very busy cutting out patterns, all for doll clothes and for children's clothes. And on the next floor down, that's where they take pictures, so that the elves can send them to family members and stuff like that to let them know that they're all okay. Another thing that I learned from Pete is that it's not all elves up there. You do have other full-grown people, not just elves. And for instance, the lady who takes the pictures, she also works in the sewing area. Okay, so Pete's been was telling me a whole bunch of things, and it was still bothering me. How does the wind, how can you have the wind at the North Pole turning a windmill? These are examples of what windmills are. You have all different type of windmills. You even have these giant windmills that we use nowadays with these huge blades on them. And to give you an idea, that little dot on the bottom is a sailboat. So that's how high these things are. And the wind out on the ocean, there's nothing to stop it. Here's a very large water wheel. There's 3 of them, 3 water wheels in a row. And here's a very small water wheel. This water wheel is half sunken into the ground. Santa sinks the whole water wheel into the ground. There's another form of a water wheel. Another water wheel. Another windmill. But if you notice, there's no trees around windmills. You can't have trees and have a windmill. I'll show you on this down here. Down inside here is a windmill. I don't know if you can catch that. There's a windmill right there, in among the trees. If I turn this hair dryer on and I blow wind, it doesn't work too well because the trees are in the way. But if I take this off, now it works fine. Now the windmill's turning and doing what it's supposed to be doing. It turns a shaft that goes down inside And then from here you can have the shaft go out or down into Santa's workshop and power a machine. But the only thing is, if Santa was to have a windmill like that, he'd have to cut down all these trees to get the wind to hit the windmill. So for years this was bothering me. How does Santa use the wind? And Pete answered that question. By the way, I can show you a picture of Pete. That's Pete. I don't know if it may glare. I don't know if you can catch him. And Pete's an old man now. He's going to be retiring, and this is his son, Jim. He does a lot of the ice road trucking also up to Santa. Jim also knows Santa. Jim has also slept over. If the weather is real bad, Santa doesn't want them driving. Ice road trucking is a very, very dangerous job. Another thing about ice road trucking, if you have to go 15 miles an hour when you're crossing a lake, a frozen lake, because a wave will form underneath the ice, and it can get so big that it can come up and crack the ice and the truck goes in. And if you go too slow, the weight of the truck can crack the ice and you can go in. So it's a very dangerous job, and Pete's been doing it for a long, long time. So when I asked Pete, how does Santa use the wind if he can't have a windmill? Because if he cuts down all the trees, a plane flies over, they see a windmill, they go over, they find Santa's workshop. And then Pete told me the secret. This is just the top part of the tree. Just the very tip of the trees. And inside there, if you look carefully, you can see there's a little, kind of looks like a ball. And it's a paddle wheel. So what we have here now is that ball up on the top of a tree, and you have minimum of 40-mile-an-hour winds. So when you hit this, it turns the machine down here. I don't know if you can see that turning. I hope you can. You see the wheel turning? So that's how Santa uses the wind to help power his machines. So I asked Pete, does Santa have electricity at all? And Pete said yes, that he delivered a bunch of generators when they were invented. And he brings the generators up. So now if you catch that chain that's going down, if you can attach that chain that's going down around the wheel like this, except the generator is much, much, much bigger. This is a very tiny one. And that wheel turns. See, I'm making electricity right now. There's no batteries, it's not plugged in the wall. Just by me turning this wheel, this is an armature, and these are two magnets. And that's how electricity is made. So every time when you plug in something in your house, or mom and dad plug it into the house, that's how that works. So now on this part here, this here is Santa's workshop. And this is very, very close to what Pete drew me a whole bunch of sketches and on pieces of wood and everything else. And we finally came down. I built one out of paper, and now then I built this one. And he said, this is very, very close, except there are a lot more trees in the front here. He said, this whole front is just covered in trees, so that you really can't see it at all. So I asked him, this section right here was what I showed you before, the blow up. So that big blow up that's over there is just this piece right here. Santa also uses boxcars. For you who don't know what boxcars are, they're on the railroad, and they are just what they're called, boxcars. And they load them up with presents, and they park the boxcars on what they call spurs or sidings. And so if you're ever on a train and you look out a window and you see a boxcar with no marking on it, more than likely it's Santa, because they start leaving those boxcars around even in the summertime. They're shipping presents even in the summertime, not just in the wintertime. And this way Santa doesn't have to go from where we are now, let's say Massapequa, all the way back to the North Pole, and then back to the North Pole, and then from the North Pole back and forth. He can just go to where the nearest siding is. Another thing that I found out was with all the trees that are there, Santa wouldn't be able to take off. So this here is his runway. So Santa would use this to land his sleigh and to take off from here. So he can take this and just take off and land. Now, the problem in the old days, before he had the generator, were these lights were lanterns. They were fire in those lanterns. So if one of the reindeer would accidentally knock a lantern over, there was a whole bunch of elves that had to stay up top and stand the lanterns back up again so that there wouldn't be any fires. But once he got the generators, this is what he has now. This is nice and strong. The reindeer can run over this, the sleigh can run over this, and it will never get broken. All they have to do is change a bulb when it burns out. So that was a great innovation that came up, because that would make me very nervous. If you knock over a lantern and there's fire in the lantern, you wind up burning Santa's workshop down. And the other thing is taking a look inside Santa's workshop. He told me, he said, this is very close, except there's a lot more stuff going on. You have presents, you have lumber coming in, like this would be Pete's truck down here. He crossed the lake, he goes in, there's safety things so that none of the elves can accidentally get hit by a truck or anything, or the truck can't get hit by the train. So everything is safety. But that would be Pete's truck. He told me it had a red cab, and that's where the driver sits, is in here. And from there it goes inside and the elves unload it. They have forklifts working to help unload everything. And then this part right here is, well, I guess it would be the living quarters. And over here you have, like, this is the bedroom, this is the dining room, this is the kitchen. And we have a supply room, we have a bathroom. This is the barn. These 3 levels are for the reindeer. Over here, this here are the 2 machines that you saw before. This here is the bandsaw, and this one here is the drill. And then down here, this is all storage and extra parts to machines. And then if this comes out, you have Santa's workshop. Except Pete told me that it goes much, much deeper, just like the living quarters are deeper than what I made, but I didn't have room to do it. So right now, this here is give you a good idea of just what it really looks like inside Santa's workshop. The other good thing about having the workshop underground like this is the temperature is always the same. It's always same temperature in the wintertime and in the summertime. It's always the same temperature. So you may have to wear a sweater down there, but if you do, you have to wear the sweater all year long because the temperature is always the same. And he ships out a lot of boxcars. A lot of boxcars, Pete said. And then this here will fold right back up again. You can see by my finger the scale. So this here are the bedrooms, and then you have the dining room down here. And hopefully by next year I'll be able to have tables set up and beds and a kitchen and everything else so that you get an idea. But only when I meet with Pete. Pete has to tell me just what it really looks like up there. We didn't have time to do it this year. If you like to see this, what it looks like when the sun's coming up on the mountaintops, when the sun rises, that's what you see. The beautiful mountains. But those mountains are also very important to Santa because he calls those the Four Sisters. And when he's coming back from delivering presents to you kids, he looks for those 4 mountaintops, and that tells him about where his workshop is. So once he has those in sight, he knows just where to turn, and the reindeer know where to turn to find home, because like Pete said, you can't even see this. There are so many trees interlocking in front of this that you couldn't see it. And then that's in the middle of the day. And the snow is all glistening. And the river comes down. And they break the river into 2 parts. You have this part here turning a water wheel over here. And then the water is split by gates. That's those black things, those brown things in the back. That's a gate that forces the water to go where you want it to go. And this side here has the water coming down to this water wheel. And then it comes down over the cliff and goes into a lake. And this is where the lake is out here. This would be the lake. Huge lake. And Pete won't tell me. There's certain things that he's not allowed to tell me. And one of the questions I had is, what's the name of the lake? And he's not allowed to tell me. Another thing that we have here is this front opening up, just like it did on the smaller model. But what Pete told me a whole bunch of things about Santa's sleigh. This is the model of Santa's sleigh. Except Santa's sleigh is about that much bigger if it was to scale. This is a little on the small side. But I was limited to space and I had to go here. And another interesting thing is all the gifts, how they pile up on the top there as they're getting ready to load the sleigh for the first couple of runs. One thing I didn't know from Pete was that Santa, if there's no snow on the roof of the house, he won't land the sleigh with these steel runners because they're going to tear up the shingles. So these here are steel. And they tear up the shingles, and then Mom and Dad would have to fix the roof after Christmas. So what Santa does to correct that is he puts wheels, a landing gear, just like an airplane, so that the sleigh can now come in and land on a rooftop. And he says they're nice, big, soft rubber tires. And the other thing on this, I have to sit down to show you, is Santa loves flying in the snow, and the wind doesn't bother him at all. But it's the sleet and the hail that can hurt. That hurts your face. So what Santa does to fix that problem is he has the sides come up and lock into place. So now he has a windshield to protect his face. And there's always at least 3 reindeer, most of the time, elves, most of the time. Hans the elf rides up front with Santa, and he's working the radio and the landing gear. And the radio is in contact with all of the airports, and the airports are always sure from their control towers to make sure there's no airplanes in the area when Santa's flying. The other thing is to help protect him from the sleet and the hail and heavy, heavy, heavy rain is this little convertible top. And then the elves tuck in plastic and cover all the presents on the side. so that he's completely protected inside his sleigh right now. And then this here, just as easily as it came down, there's a crank on the side. When they land, they crank this all back up again, and it just tucks right back down inside. They lower everything, and then he can go back to flying without the protection, and he's off again. The wheels come up. The other thing is, this is how he connects the reindeers to the sleigh. And in order to, I don't know if you can see it, but in order to steer the reindeer, he has two levers inside the sleigh. That's what my thumbs are working right now. And those levers, if you want to go to the left, he pulls the left. And if he wants to pull to the right, he'll pull the right one. And then these are the connections that the reindeers get hooked up to. So you have two reindeer here, two reindeer, two reindeer, two reindeer, and then Rudolph. So this is really going to be about that long. So it's some operation to fly a sleigh. Not an easy thing. Pete says it takes a lot of practice. Of course, Santa has that practice. But if you and I were to try and fly that sleigh, I'm sure we'd probably crash. Where Santa never does. Now you think you're looking at a mountain, but real life, it's made of, it looks like a stone, but it's not a stone. It's styrofoam. And that's what this mountain is made out of right here. This is all made by Santa Claus. And it has to be light enough so that this can open up and close, open and close. Even the trees. Now, if you're going to have, when you have a tree like this, you see it's hollow inside. There's a ladder inside there. And it's hollow in here. And it's very, very light. Now, I'm just throwing this thing around like it's a feather. But in real life, this would probably weigh about 150 pounds, maybe more. So what they do is they take one section, and you can see the bark on here, just like a real tree. They take one section and they put one section on top of each other, like this. And you have the ladder going down inside, and the elves can come up and down, and they bolt all the sections together until this thing will go up 100 feet. And this is a sample of the bark. It's styrofoam. It's the same material as what the rock is. So Pete told me the secret how to make this. What I had to buy and how to do it. You have to make a mold. You have to find a piece of bark, and the bark comes like this. This is a real piece of bark, just a small piece of it. The piece that I made this out of was as big as this. And you have to straighten them out, make them lay flat, and then you curve them later in what they call a jig. That's a lot of the secrets of the North Pole. So, I hope everybody has a great Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I hope all you kids get what you asked for. Don't ask for ridiculous things like jets and real cars and stuff like that, but I'm sure you're going to get what you asked for, because I think most of you kids are real good. So have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Bye-bye.